A little over a week ago, we came on this very channel, this very program to discuss some updates with Chase Branham's recruitment. Chase Branham, a 2027 four-star point guard, a top 50 player per the 24/7 composite, and a player that Indiana and Purdue were both really prioritizing early. Well, we have an update that should be the final update in this recruitment. Chase Branham has committed to the Indiana Hoosiers. He chooses Indiana and Darren DeVries over Purdue and Matt Painter, among other programs. They are certainly not the only schools that wanted Chase Branham. I'm trying to pull up his final list just to make sure, but I want to say Tennessee was involved, which anytime Tennessee is normally involved, usually that means Matt Painter gets the guy. But this time, Darren DeVries did a little dipsy do. Yeah, Tennessee wanted him. Iowa, Creighton, Kansas State, Missouri also wanted Chase Branham. In the end, a very early class of 2027 pickup for Darren DeVries and the Indiana Hoosiers. What are your thoughts, Dion?
I like this kid's game a lot. 6'4". He's a point, but I feel like he can play the wing too. Shot 38% from three in high school last year, so he can shoot. He can really shoot it. To be honest with you, though, I do have to admit it feels like everybody can shoot at the moment. Every time we come on one of these videos, I'm talking about how good of a shooter the person is. But he can really shoot it. Um, he was the camp standout award winner at the Steph Curry camp, which means something to me. In my opinion, that means he's one he won to sign Steph Curry shoes, so he's special. I think it's a good pickup. It's going to be a long term play for Illinois, or excuse me, for Indiana. Um, you need guys like this to come in, especially when you're dealing with some of the deficit in terms of NIL that in Indiana is dealing with at the moment, at least from the sounds of it. So I think it's a good long-term pickup for them, and he's going to be a guy that can play a role on a team regardless, just because of how well he can shoot it.
This is a big commitment because of the timing of it to me. I think this is a foundational Darren DeVries piece, maybe the first foundational Darren DeVries piece, respectfully. Now, look, I don't know if Darren DeVries is going to coach 40 years at Indiana. I don't know if he's going to coach 5 years at Indiana, but I know this any good coach at a program as prestigious as Indiana, or compare it to other Big Ten programs that have had sustained success through the years, if you are a good coach, you kind of need to have that first class that feels like yours. And respectfully to what Darren DeVries has put together for the 2025 season from the portal, it's entirely portal, right? He had no choice. This roster was starting from scratch with nobody coming back from Mike Woodson's empty leftovers. Um, I don't think, respectfully, even if this year's team is competitive, I don't think this year's team will be all that indicative of what future Darren DeVries teams look like. And I think that's a normal thing for a new head coach to go through. Like, I think you look at last year, Mark Pope, Pat Kelsey, Dusty May, all successful first year coaches. All I think were just trying to grab the best they could talent wise, and future versions of themselves will look different and will give you a sense of what they're prioritizing. Now, look, DeVries still needs to do some things in the 26 class. We don't know what's going to come from that. They're after Anthony Thompson and a lot of players that are kind of being chased by blue bloods. But this is huge because number one, Purdue wanted Branham. Branham's one of the biggest risers in this class. He fits the archetype that Matt Painter's had a ton of success with. And despite Purdue having a logjam at the point guard position in theory going forward, they were still prioritizing Chase Branham. So DeVries not only gets the win here, but he gets the win very early. This is a guy I think you kind of make the centerpiece of your class in 27. You convince other kids to come play alongside him. And if you're Branham, I think it's a great decision because you are going to be an integral piece of this instead of just a cog in the machine, which may have been what happened if you ended up at Purdue or elsewhere. Even look at some of the offers or schools that were starting to reach out to him this week. Duke, Louisville, Gonzaga, Texas had all just started recruiting Chase Branham. And for him to like get interest from John Shire and then be like, nah, I'm going to commit to Indiana. I don't even want to like go down that path. It's a pretty sizable win for Darren DeVries.
I completely agree. And he's in on other recruits too that he can now like sell the idea of playing with Chase Branham and what the team's going to look like next year. Because like I feel like Indiana, with everything that they brought in this year from the portal, there is some question marks in terms of like what the second year under Dan DeVries looks like. And now we're starting to see what that's going to play out as. And I think that's a great point about Purdue as well. Um, because how similar to the Jacob Weber mold does he fit in? And that is the type of player that almost always goes to Purdue, it feels like. And he was able to pick up a big like win in state, right? Going head to head against like your rival at the end of the day. And you're able to get a win over Paint, who I have to be honest, I think has been the most impressive coach on the recruiting trail at the moment. The way he's moving is different, and it seems like the only person that can beat Payne out at the moment is Darren DeVries. That's a massive win for Darren.
The flip side of this is I don't think Purdue's going to feel this one this much unless Branham goes to Indiana and becomes like all conference good. Then obviously you feel it. But you look at the future for Purdue. They got Luke Ertl. You mentioned they got Jacob Weber. They are recruiting a bunch of studs. They still have Jakari, CJ Cox, and Omer Meyer, all in theory with multiple years of eligibility left. So it's not like the Purdue backcourt depth chart is hurting. It's part of why I've been so confused why Painter has still been prioritizing point guards. So you can see why that ended up not being a fit. But on the flip side, yeah, I think it's a great decision. Also, apparently he visited Indiana this weekend and he was supposed to go to Iowa, Purdue, Creighton all in the fall into the winter. So Bloomington showed out, man. Like, first off, you get to visit Illinois football weekend. Second of all, like the upstairs pub must have been slapping.
Yeah, that's a great weekend to be in the tent. Uh, and I mean, honestly, that stadium was jumping, and that's for the football team who has vocalized struggles getting fans in the building, right? Like Signetti did the whole like we need to like fill it, send the letter out to all the classes and whatnot. Like he probably was at that game, like this is how jumping this is, and they had to like beg people to come here. Imagine what it's like for basketball.
Yeah. Yep. He was super productive as a sophomore in high school. Now, he played high school in Missouri, but he averaged 19 points a game, shot 62% from the field. He continued rising beyond just the high school season. Like, this has been a great summer for Branham. He won some sort of award. I think it was like Breakout Player Award or something at the Steph Curry camp. There's a picture of him with a trophy with Curry from the Curry camp this summer. So, really cemented himself. He was like a top 80 kid coming out of the high school season. Really cemented himself as a top 50 kid since the summer. Theoretically, has a year and a half to still keep rising here. Like I would not be stunned if he ends up a 5 star, especially when Duke and Louisville had started sniffing around. Where do you think this ends for Brandham? Not just the recruitment, like he's at Indiana now. Theoretically, could still keep rising, but fast forward to his college career. How good do you think he will be in the Big Ten?
I think he's going to be pretty good. I think he's going to be like the annoying shooter, kind of like Fletcher Lawyer for Purdue, right? Like he's going to be that annoying guy that's there for 4 years that you probably start out like freshman, sophomore year, not that concerned about, but like he's still knocking down a lot of shots. And then by his junior year, he kind of takes that next step that makes him even more annoying because you've been dealing with this guy hitting big shots on you for a few years already.
Theoretically a point guard too. Like he's listed as a point. Now, he even self-described his game when talking through the Purdue lens of like, yeah, I see what they do with Braden and Fletcher. It gives you a sense of what I'll be there. So I think that kind of alludes to the fact that he views himself as both an on and off ball player. It'll be interesting to see how DeVries uses him. Do they want him to be the full-time point guard? Do they want to use him as like a secondary kind of two guard, but who still runs pick and roll stuff? I would think he runs a lot of pick and roll action, has the ball in his hands a good amount, no matter whether he's the one or the two. But it's a luxury to have a 6'4" kid that theoretically is still growing that can shoot the way he can shoot, and he's going to fit in seamlessly wherever they try and use him. I bet. I mean, I don't know how much NBA upside is here. Probably none, right? This is a kid who I think you're thinking you get 4 years out of. So in that sense, pretty hot commodity in the portal era to have a kid that you could keep for 4 years, as long as you keep him and it goes well. If he stays 4 years at Indiana, I would think he's an all conference player when all is said and done.
Yeah, I think in the I see him personally more in that Fletcher Lawyer mold, but that to me also is very close to being an all conference player. And Fletcher Lawyer probably is an all conference player if he wasn't playing with two other like literal All Americans.
Yeah, very true. All right, congrats to Chase Branham. Big win for Darren DeVries. Indiana had themselves a weekend.